Hello folks, and welcome to yet another Banking App Insights session with Touchpoint. We're looking at the US Tier 1 banks for June of 2022, and US Bank and Capital One are leading the pack. US Bank is widening the gap at the top of the table though, and if we dig down deeper into those other banks competing for space, we're going to dive deeper into PNC. And PNC have been up there. They've done it before. They've been up there with the top with an engaged customer score of over 4, but inconsistency is really hurting them. So, Tony Patrick, let's dive into this and have a little look at how things are going and a little deeper at PNC.
Brilliant. Thanks, Glenn. And as Glenn said, so it's these 4 banks in US Tier 1s we're looking at today: US Bank, Capital One, PNC and Truist. Let's just jump in and have a look first at how the score's moving around. So as Glenn mentioned, we've got US Bank sitting up here at a very consistent and actually slightly increasing. So if we looked at their score from about a year ago, they were above 4.5. And you would have thought that's pretty good. They've actually improved on that, and they got over 4.75 over the past 3 months on average. So they're doing really well, and so their customers must be very pleased with using their app. One of the other things that we can see is that gap down to Capital One, and part of the gap increase is coming from a slight decrease from Capital One, but that increase, as I said, from US Bank. Whereas in the past, if you look back a year ago, they were sort of just about neck and neck. Still the order was the same, but they were very close back in time. I'll have a quick look at Truist. Now, Truist has had some troubles at the last year, to say the least. They were sort of averaging around 1.5 around there somewhere up until November. And obviously some improvements are in play, and they're actually picking their act up to be getting above 3. And just keep in mind, in this scale of 1 to 5, 1 is the lowest possible. That's if everyone gave you a 1. So getting in the 1.5 is probably the lowest you can sort of get. It's hard to get much lower than that. So they've done some improvements, which is great. However, I want to have a look at something which is sort of bugging me in a sense. I'm looking here at PNC and thinking, well, they were doing pretty well up until August 2021, and they were sitting above 4 consistently. They were just about competing with those top 2 we talked about before. But then there's this drop off in October, then a pickup in December, and it looks like to me, what I've seen with others is there's a bit of a whack-a-mole approach going, look, I found a problem, I'll fix it, and then something else comes up. So not staying on top of problems consistently can cause this up and down movement for customers. So the question is, what's keeping PNC consistently behind the likes of Capital One and even US Bank sitting up here? So let's have a look. So one of our first clues as to what's going on is we've talked about this before, is our surf analysis. So using the idea of security, usability, reliability and functionality. You get those things right, you can then sort of be on a nice platform to be launching into those big scores. But we can see here, compared to those 2 major players, looking at reliability, we see Capital One and US Bank are around 2, but PNC is it's more than double that. So their reliability issues are there. So that's an obviously clear improvement space. Issues with features. So these again are negative things. So the higher is the worst. So looking at 3 times the level of feature issues coming through here as well. And user interface issues are sort of, it's double that of the leader US Bank. So there's clearly some improvement areas. And this is security and authentication. The leaders are actually making it easy for customers to get in and use their app in a secure manner, but making it easy and a smooth process. Whereas for PNC, it's an issue here. So let's just step forward into having a look at something else. Let's have a look here at some particular journeys that customers would go through. And these are the most important journeys. These are the ones that people are talking about, and these are the reasons someone's using your app. Obviously, the reason to use your app isn't to log in, but again, we can see here the login process is a bit cumbersome, only scoring a 1.8 when people talk about that topic. But other areas here, like checking account balance, a fairly basic thing. When people talk about that, the score coming from PNC is 2.1. I won't go through each of these, but you can see the trend here that across these major features, PNC is underperforming. So they need to pick up their action across a lot of places. Let's have a look now at, actually what I might do, I might have a look at this. Actually, interestingly, that's a good thought here I had here, was if I look at this from a perspective of looking at, okay, how is my score being impacted by these surf areas? What I can do, rather than looking at frequency, let's have a look at this thing called contribution, where we can see how much this score is dragging this particular area is dragging my score up and down. One of the things I can see here, for example, when people have conversations about the user interface, the PNC score is being dragged back by 0.14. That's a fairly reasonable amount on a 5-point scale. Whereas the others, US Bank and Capital One, it's a very minimal movement for theirs, particularly for US Bank. Reliability is dragging the score back by 0.12. So again, we can see there's areas, across these areas here, these basic areas, improve there, you're going to start to actually improve across a whole lot of things. So let's move forward as to the other area I was going to have a look at, which is around looking at specific features. So these are features here looking at sort of authentication, account balance, viewing transactions, and bill payments. And these are fairly basic things that people want to be doing all the time, or the basic functions people want out of an app. And the scores here aren't very good for PNC, particularly as we can see here, viewing transactions. You think that would be a basic feature you should be able to get right. In this case here, there's problems for PNC, in this case looking at Q2 this year. Let's have a look though at actually what's going on inside here. So if I select this viewing transactions feature, what I can do is see the actual comments coming through here. Now in this case here we're looking at, there's some people who are having a great experience, but there's people here, most of this is red. So in here I can see, for example, it takes days for transactions to show. I can't keep track of spending. I can't even see my transactions until 2 days later. So I can't see my transactions and nothing else at night because the app never works. So the basic things like viewing transactions are an issue for customers. And if you can't get the basic features and functionality right on the app, that obviously is going to cause your score to drop. So if they can pick up on these basic things, that is going to ease that score and make it a lot better, and they can actually bump up against those top performers. So thanks, Glenn.
Yes, another great insight there, mate. And with that whole whack-a-mole analogy that you talked about earlier, it just goes to show that some of these issues, these underlying issues, are not necessarily what are cropping up that they are using as the quick fix approach. These are underlying issues that could be consistently dragging them down, and unless you actually proactively go out there and look for them, you can really struggle, can't you?
Yes, definitely.
Great stuff. Well, that's another one for the month of June, folks. If you want to have a look at your bank and deep dive into the performance and how you're ranking and those challenges that you've got, feel free to sing out and we can do that for you.